I came from a background of construction, zero sales experience at all. The other great thing about Family First Life is the sharing of knowledge. No one guards knowledge here. Welcome to this week's episode of The Climb. Super excited and honored to have a guest on The Climb that is my business partner, one of my mentors, but most importantly, one of my best friends. Welcome to The Climb, Matt Smith.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on. I'm excited to do this with you.
Yes, it should be great. I'd like to just start out with some questions. The first one is, tell me about your favorite client over the years.
Oh, my favorite client. I have several favorite clients. Unfortunately, my favorite client is someone that has passed away. He was a heart transplant surgeon, and he was someone that I was able to solve multiple problems with. And his wife is still here that was left with the pieces, but I was also able to put her in a position where she could live comfortably with him being gone. And it's a gratifying feeling because we became friends. And I always told him I would have him on a speed dial for a heart transplant. So we joked about that. But it's usually when you can solve the most amount of problems for people, also the cash flow follows. But the interesting thing is, what you'll find is your happiest clients are probably some of your largest commissions. Sometimes the angrier the client might be the smallest commission you have. But yeah, it's a great individual, great family, great relationship over the years. And it's just kind of an honor to do what we do for people, to see that, you know, what position we can put them in, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the things that I really enjoy about what we do is establishing clients for life. And they really do, you know, become our friends. They get to know us. They know that we're there for them whenever they need us. And what, you know, makes me warm and fuzzy is when they do pass, is we're able to help their family and follow through with what we told them we would do for them. So great, thanks for sharing that story. I always love to hear success stories like that. Give me 3 words that describe Matt Smith with a client.
With a client, that's a good question. I would say I'm very bold, I'm very assumptive, and I'm trying to identify a problem and create the highest value that exceeds the price to have them move money. So I would say problem solver is number 3. So bold, assumptive, and a problem solver.
Can you give us an example of you being bold in a house?
Yeah, one of the times, I'll tell you what happened before a house before. So, you know, I'm always selling time over the phone. It's going to take 10 or 15 minutes to get you this information you requested. And I'll never forget, I pulled up to this house, and the gentleman came out of his door, like flew out of the screen door, right? And he's like, "You said it was only going to take 10 or 15 minutes of your time, of our time." And I'm getting out of the, you know, getting out of the car. And I'm like, "You better set the timer." I'm like, "You better set the timer right now. Because this will only take me 9 minutes," you know? So there was like, and he was taken back by my aggressive nature, but really all I was doing is I was mirroring his behavior and maybe just showing him that I wasn't a pushover, right? But it's amazing to me what, you know, those little stories in the field, what they look like and what they can be. But it's usually, if people are people of action, which is what that was, this person was a person of action, you have to, that's one of the sales traits and things we train on. You have to meet people on who they are as a person. So that's just a little sales tip along the way. So.
Good, and that's one of the main purposes of this podcast, is for tips. And that's why Matt Smith is one of the best, and we have him on here to provide tips and useful information and the secret tips that I like to call them. Were you able to help that client?
I was actually, yeah. And I was probably there for 40 minutes total, but and he wasn't upset. You know what I mean? It's just interesting to me. People don't want to be sold, right? But once you break down a lot of walls with people, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish in a house, for sure.
Sure. What is the craziest thing that's ever happened to you in the field?
You know, I don't have like a magnificent story of, you know, anything too crazy. I mean, I've had a few intoxicated people that, you know, are a certain way, or, you know, real big hoarder houses where you literally are like walking through an alley and stuff's up to the ceiling. I've had some of those horrible deals, but I mean, it's interesting because those are scenarios I just forget about. That's like the 0.5% of the clients that we might meet. So I don't have any real significant ones that I have any PTSD from.
Okay. Well, you're lucky. I think I get everyone's 1% then. I have a lot of crazy things that happen to be. On the last episode of The Climb, I shared one of them. But yeah, that's good. It's nice when it goes smooth like that. If you could recommend one good book for the new agent to read, what would that book be?
I'm big into people skills and relationships. I think, you know, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie is a great book to start. So I would start there and, you know, just get used to how to build relationships and persuade people and win people over, because that's really all we're doing in a house. You know, that's what sales is all about.
Right.
At the end of the day.
One thing that you say a lot is you're selling yourself, essentially, not necessarily the product. Can you touch a little bit on how one presents themselves when they're in a home?
I think the more that you can become an expert in your field is the more that you start to stand out and the more success you start to have. If you look at your career, Dan, as far as, you know, how you've became a Hall of Fame producer, and you were a good producer the year before, you were okay the year before that, I'd say.
Sure.
But you've had this evolution of becoming an expert, you know, and really the one thing you can't do is Google experience. I think a lot of times you have to go get that experience. But the biggest difference is for most agents is they don't change or adapt. And where you find the most amount of success in this business is when you create a domino effect and you get great at one thing at a time. Like you become great at advanced markets, and now an area for you to be focused on could be maybe more IULs, for example, you know, or maybe you can morph into that. So there's always something that we can improve on. So it's whatever we focus on and whatever we identify is what will follow. So get great at one thing, you know, and it starts with the phone, really. Then you can get great at being in the house, and you can get great at one product that can lead you to other products. But most people, you know, they spray, so they become super average or almost bad at everything, and then that's why there's a high sales turnover, and they don't create any sort of momentum in their life. So I think that's important when we're talking about, you know, getting great at one thing at a time, but also forcing yourself. This is a thinking person's business, and I think a lot of people are numb to just going through their lives and expecting things to change. You have to surround yourself with people that are pushing your thought processes and whatever you're trying to get out of the business to new heights. Otherwise, you're going to stay where you're at.
Right. That's all great stuff. I hope you all are taking notes. Give me one key factor for a successful salesperson.
Consistency.
Good. And I'm actually going to ask that question. It's the last question I'm going to ask
literally,
you.
well, what is the last question? Does that have to do with this?
Can you speak on the importance of consistency? So
Okay.
let's talk about it now.
Yeah, there it is. So if there was one skill set that I could give anybody out there, plain and simple, is, you know, everybody has a top 100 days, everybody has an average 100 days, and everybody has a bottom 100 days. If you're using the same habits and routines in your bottom 100 as you do your top 100, you're absolutely going to win in this business. Because a great skill set to have is when you don't feel like it, that you still do it anyway. And that there's only one way to achieve that, and that is through consistency. And consistency should not be something that's that difficult in this business when you stick to a schedule, when you have your dial days, when you buy leads on a consistent weekly basis, multiple times. And a lot of times I'll hear agents like, well, I've got a few days off because I'm waiting for 5 days for my leads to come in. And I'm like, the CRM's open for business. Like, what are we doing? The key to this business is making money fast. And most people want to make it slow. So multiple lead purchases equal making more money quickly. But people want to do a lead purchase, try to scrape their business together off those leads and wait, and then get another one. It's like, no, you've got to stay on offense, stay aggressive. And that's where the windfall will start to come and where you create a lot of momentum. But most people don't get to that side of the coin because they were conservative. So the more that you can go on offense, the more that you can go on attack mode, the more great things will happen and the more momentum we'll find. And then the more inspiration, the more motivation and all those different things. You know when we can tell that people aren't working, Dan? Based off the freaking questions they ask. When you ask questions like, hey, I'm trying to hire my groups and I want to put this agent under this one and this one over here and I'm getting the right structure. It's like, how many agents do you have on leads weekly? Who's on your dial team? How many appointments are they running? What are they asking you underwriting questions? Because if they are, that's a sign that they're working. I would rather ask, I've got a 72-year-old, insulin diabetic that has a stent put in 4 years ago. That's someone working. That's someone you want to know that works with you. So those are areas that you've got someone to work with versus people asking you these 1% questions. Hey, this one product, I want to do these group policies or I want to do this or that. It's like, that's not the business model here. I'm not saying that it can't be effective in other atmospheres or whatnot or other businesses, but like if you're trying to maximize your results at Family First Life, there's a straightforward, straight path. Most people want to go on their own path, and that's why they run into dead ends. If there's a straight line for you to go on, your job is to find that line and stay on it as much as you can. Of course, we all get off the line, but the main thing is to stay on the line to the straight path of success as quick as you possibly can.
Do you want to know what one of my favorite things are about you?
What's that?
And I'm sure you guys are all noticing it during this podcast, is your passion. You get going and there's no stopping, and no one should ever stop. They need to just listen. No, I appreciate you. I love the passion. I love your mentorship and coaching. I definitely couldn't be where I'm at without you. I know Tiffany couldn't either, as well as the whole entire agency. All of FFL could not be where they're at without Matt Smith. Give me just a real quick rundown of your typical day.
Yeah, typical day. I try to work out around 6 in the morning, so I try to get up before that. I try to do a little bit of weights and cardio, and that seems to be a good time for me to listen to podcasts. So I listened to a podcast years ago that said Steve Jobs used to take his employees on walks and train them on specific things they wanted them to do. And the reason he did that is when you got blood flow working through you and oxygen flowing, you actually remember more. So I like to listen to podcasts in the morning so I can remember things about those, and then I can adapt to them in the day. And then I usually try to get to the office by 8, and then it just starts with either podcasts, multiple calls, sales training. It depends on the day, and that's it. I mean, it's just rinse and repeat all throughout the day. Trying to be more structured with the schedule. I think everybody can get better at that, like being a little more scheduled out, and it's helped me to identify things. There's a lot of projects I'm currently working on. Just revamping our entire system that we have here as far as getting new updates on websites and marketing material and pushing out better social media, and all these things are very important to me. So now I've listed out these things. My staff has these items of priorities, so they're not spraying all over the place. They know what is important from the top down, so we're starting to accomplish things at a quicker manner because we're creating that domino effect. If you give them a million tasks, because that's what I've done, and then we don't have a priority list, we're all over the place and it could be a mess. So now we start identifying what's the most important things to us, and then we're knocking those out, and we're noticing a lot more progress, which is a great thing.
Great. Let's close with this. Go ahead and throw out there some shameless plugs where can we find your content? What do you currently have podcasts? Where can we find day-to-day content from Matt Smith?
Sure. Thank you very much. Yeah. At the Matt Smith #1 is my Instagram handle. When your name's Matt Smith, you have to literally go at the Matt Smith #1. There's a lot of Matt Smiths. Only one that I'm aware of like this. But, we have a Keep Striving podcast that just came out. It's on Apple, Spotify. It's on our Family First Life YouTube channel, which has a tremendous amount of content and training, some of your training on there too. It goes on Facebook Live as well. So if you're looking for more content and sales training, those are the areas to find it for sure.
All right. Thank you, Matt, for coming on The Climb. Look forward to our future episodes. We are going to be featuring about 5 Hall of Fame producers over the next 5 weeks. Super great content coming your way.